Hey, my name's Gabe Giannis, and if I hated you, you would know.
That's correct.
Hey, everybody, welcome to this issue of If I Hated You, You Would Know. Like I said before, my name's Gabe Giannis. I don't know why I just reintroduced myself right there. But yeah, if you're familiar with the show, basically, or if you're not familiar with the show, basically this is what I like to think of as a video zine. I just kind of talk about the stuff that I've been doing, things I'm interacting with, that sort of thing, and just kind of, yeah, doing a little bit of a like video diary thing, I guess. It's just kind of about sharing things and talking and understanding stuff. And yeah, last episode I asked a lot of questions. Sometimes I talk about one subject, sometimes I talk about several. We work on interviews, things like that. So yeah, if you're new here, thanks for coming. The way one of my favorite YouTubers, Mug Thief, says it, don't subscribe. Wait till you get to the end of the video, and if you thought what I did was worthwhile, subscribe then. But until then, thanks for hanging out. Maybe give me a thumbs up if you find it interesting or whatever. None of that really matters to me very much. So, this episode I'm going to be talking about Tartuffe, which I'm sure I'm saying not correct, but I don't speak French, so there's that. I'm going to talk about my my very strange bid for city council that happened this week. And then I'm going to kind of talk about a last first day, right? Because I think, I just want to talk about that. So, yeah, be back in a second.
That's correct.
Hello, welcome back. So first off, let's talk about Tartuffe. So this weekend I went to Boulder and watched the Upstart, I just had it, the Upstart Crow Theater Company. Let me make sure that's right because I don't want to screw it up. Yes, the Upstart Crow Theater Company's presentation of Tartuffe. If you're unfamiliar, Tartuffe is a play that was first presented in the 1660s, written by a guy named Moliere, and is basically about a super hypocritical, like, religious figure that has conned, like, the head of a household into, giving him his daughter's hand in marriage, all of his land, all these sorts of things. And everyone around him, except for his mom, is telling him that Tartuffe is like a hypocrite, right? And that he needs to shy away from him, etc., until the very end when, the head of household figures out that it's all a con job and, he is in a bad spot and thinks that Tartuffe is going to take all his land and all his money, but then the tables are turned because, the prince has saved us kind of situation. So, hilariously, like, it's definitely very anti-religious, I would say, like probably very specifically anti-Catholic. Like it feels like an intense takedown of like religious like figureheads in a very significant way. Obviously the point of it, like, definitely something that, pissed off the royals at the time. Louis the 14th, like, suppressed this play, like, did his best to make it go away, but it ended up being very popular, mostly because it is extremely funny. It's very, very funny. But the reason I want to talk about my experience at it was entertaining, very, very entertaining, well acted, very enjoyable, everything I loved about it. The theater itself was really cool because it was just a very small black box theater with the stage like right in the middle of the floor. And then on three sides of it were seating, and we were on the floor with the stage. So the actors are coming next to us, making eye contact with us. Some of the lines are delivered conversationally as though they are talking to you, right? So that's very, very fun. And it's meant to be interactive. You're meant to have fun. You're meant to laugh. But sitting directly across from us, because like if you think about it like side, we're sitting on one of these sides. Some people are sitting over here, and then there's that third side, right? So three sides to a square. We're sitting across from some people, right? So the people that we're sitting across from are this. I went into Tartuffe not knowing about it, really. Like, I knew who Molière was, but I've never, like, really experienced the play. I've never really read anything about it. And when my wife told me we were going to it, I decided intentionally to not learn anything about it so I could just enjoy it, like, as an experience. A part of me wonders if these people did the same thing and hilariously were super duper offended by it. Because if you are a religious person, this is a play that mocks religion and mocks religious figures and definitely points out a lot of the errors and flaws of Christianity as it is today, because very little has changed in that realm. I mean, we're not buying indulgences anymore, but there's definitely mega churches that are like conning people out of their money at the same level that the Catholic Church was conning people out of their money in the 1660s, right? So they felt offended. They felt angry. And it might not be that. It might be they're on a bad blind date. It might be that there are a couple that argued right before they came. That's happened to me before too. The husband may have gotten drug out, or the wife may have gotten drug out to something they didn't actually want to go do. Like, there's plenty of other reasons. But in my brain, I had built it up into this story. And it's a story that I think is familiar to a lot of people, that sometimes you experience things, you see things, you watch things, you read things that are super duper offensive to you. I want to challenge you, right? Being offended is not bad. Being offended is good. Seeing how things are talked about, treated, dealt with, responded to by people that think different than us is never a bad thing. Learning about other groups of people is never a bad thing, because it can't hurt you, right? Understanding how someone else thinks can't hurt you. What can hurt you is accepting somebody's thought process when it's like a negative and dangerous thought process, right? Understanding how a white supremacist works and thinks isn't dangerous. Accepting the ideology of a white supremacist is dangerous. That's the difference. The challenge is, go be offended. Go watch something that you know is going to not make you feel good, right? Not everything has to be positive. Not everything has to be in a Pollyanna light. Not everything has to be clean and neat and sanitized. A big part of what's the word I'm looking for? A big part of the resiliency of people from my generation and older, and I don't mean exclusively, right? This is true of many, many people that are younger than me, right? And this is true of many, many people that are significantly older than me. But a lot of the resiliency of people that are currently in their, like, I would say like mid 60s to like mid 40s, right? Those people that are kind of in that age range. Much of our resiliency comes from just exposure. We had every crazy thing dumped into our lap, whether it's from the internet, like the introduction of streaming porn into my home, or rotten.com, or going to the video store and checking out, your copy of Slither and Faces of Death and Porky's and Dumb and Dumber. Like, we filled our heads with garbage, right? And as a consequence, when something offensive happens, my immediate response isn't to be and run away. It's to try to engage and figure out what's going on. Because half the time, something really interesting can happen in that space where we're really offended. There's a video on this channel about Herman Nisch, right? Who is creating these like rituals that are hearkening back to like an older time, but with no spiritual intention, just a way to like open up like our psyches and our minds, right? It's gross, it's bloody, it's animal sacrifice, like it's all these things that are scary and weird to people and dangerous and icky, but it's saying something. And there's something really interesting there, but you have to dig through the thing that a lot of people would be really easily offended by. There's so much stuff out there that can teach us and educate us and inform us about the world around us that are also super duper offensive, that I think a younger group of people are kind of paralyzed by. And again, this is a very broad generalization. I'm not out here trying to create some narrative that like Generation X is tougher than Generation Z. Like, you guys are we're all going through craziness, but in different ways. But I do think there was a lot of sheltering that happened because my generation was exposed to everything, and we didn't want our kids to be exposed in the same way to like a lot of really nasty shit. So a lot of us pulled back and became extremely protective. Like, that's why you have like helicopter parents that don't let their kids touch a bug. You know, that kind of stuff happens. It's like an overcorrection, right? Just like the kid that's been sheltered their whole life overcorrects when they go to college and does all the drugs and bangs every person they can find. You know, again, broad generalizations. Excuse me. So here's the challenge. Go out, be offended, watch something that you think is gross, watch something that you don't like, interact with someone that you find distasteful, but learn, right? Educate yourself, understand, no, there's plenty of things to be afraid of, right? But very rarely is a conversation one of the things to be afraid of. Very rarely is a movie or a book or a song something that you should be afraid of. It's something that you might be offended by. It's something that might hurt your feelings, but it's also something that you can learn from. And it's something that can help you be a stronger, better, more empathetic and understanding person, right? Because so much art is created to make us uncomfortable so that we have a different perspective on life. So, I don't know, go out there, get offended, be put off, be grossed out, be, feel like this. Right? Feel like, But open your brain and try to figure out what it's trying to say to you or how it makes you feel. What it says to you is up to you, right? Maybe all it's saying to you is, that's gross, right? Because there's plenty of stuff like that. There's pure gore movies. There's pure gore books. Hate them. They're boring. They're not very creative. But there's also stuff like Jack Ketchum's The Girl Next Door. That is offensive. It's vile. It's violent. It's misogynistic. It's terrifying. It's sexually predatory. It's a nasty, nasty book. But man, is it saying a lot about the voyeur and being able to excuse behavior if you're not directly participating in it, but you're just watching it, right? So wrapped up in all of that offensiveness, it's saying something. And that something that it's saying ends up being very, very powerful due to how offensive the book is. So, yeah, let's go out there. Let's get offended. Like, it's hard for me to get offended. Like, I was talking to my wife a couple days ago about how strange my bookshelf is, because like on the big bookshelf behind me is what I like to call my religion and media and history shelf. So it's all the books that I love that are about religions, they're about media, and they're about history. So side by side, you might see something like, Islamo-Christian traditionalism understood, right? So like this notion of thinking about Islam and Christianity as like something rooted in a similar religion and Jesus as a prophet of both religions. So a book about that is right next to the series Cinema Sewer, which is about nasty porn, which is right next to like 1491, which is about prehistoric Americas, right? And the history of the Americas until colonization. So, like, being offended is a little tricky for me, but I do my best to, like, find things that challenge me, even if I'm not fully offended. But go out there. Feel uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable is not bad. You learn from being uncomfortable. We don't learn from comfort and ease and simpleness and like laziness. We learn from challenging and striving and being challenged, not just challenging other things, but being challenged by things, hearing opinions that are diametrically opposed to ours. Like, I just think it's super, super important. Get offended. All right, I'll be right back.
That's correct.
Let's talk about last first days first, before the city council thing. So I work at a museum that's largely focused on children's education, and we have a big space that's like a park with 30 buildings on it. And it's utilized in lots of different ways for community events, for, for weddings, for naturalization ceremonies, we do a fiesta every September, we do a Halloween event, we do a Christmas event, but in the spring we do a big student event, a big history event where hundreds and hundreds of kids come every day to effectively do field trip stuff, and it's tons of fun. I love it, right? Sure, today wasn't the best day in the world. There was a kid that wouldn't stop talking, right? And his teacher wasn't stepping up to the plate. And I literally had to do something that I've never had to do before, where I told the kid, hey, if you can't be respectful enough to stop talking so that your friends can hear what's being said, I'm going to have to ask you to stand outside. I hate doing that because I want kids to enjoy this and have fun. So for the last 3 years, I've worked at this museum. I've been doing this work. We have events on site. We go into schools. We talk about local history. We do really good work. We see thousands of kids a year, and we get to talk to them about how our community is made of immigrants. We get to talk to them about respecting the native peoples that came here before us. We get to talk about how before there was an America, there was all sorts of things here that people have been cultivating food, planting food intentionally in Colorado for 10,000 years. Just read 2 years ago, read a cool article about them finding potato remnants in metates, right? Manos and metates, where they've been ground into flour, and they were able to carbon date it, and it indicates that they've been cultivated in this part of the world for 10,000 years. We also get to teach them about the positives and negatives about the founding of our city, founded as a utopian community, how it managed to aspire to something that it could never achieve. And while it never achieved it, it did its best, even though the people in charge maybe didn't always have the best intentions. And we get to talk about the nuances that sometimes people with good, big ideas aren't always good people, right? And that what they start might have a positive result, but them personally may not be somebody to look up to, right? And those kind of things are really important for kids to learn about history. That a presidential figure might accomplish good things, but not be a good man, right? And vice versa. That he might be a good man, but really bad at his job. And that leadership doesn't get to just justify itself. Bless you! I'll leave that in. I don't even know if the mic picked up my wife sneezing, but... So, the city I work for is facing really serious budget constraints. And there's a lot of indication that this might be the last spring and summer that we have in that capacity for the foreseeable future. Nothing's set in stone right now, but Magic 8 Ball says all signs pointing to. So for me, Monday was kind of the first day of that week of field trips that we all work hard to build up to, kind of look forward to and dread at the same time, because while it's super enjoyable, while we love it, seeing 300 to 600 kids in one day is a lot. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot to manage logistically, and it's a lot to teach, It's so bittersweet to have a last first day, to know that maybe this event isn't going to happen for a while, if ever again. Other events feel that way. Moments where we wrap up, this is the last time we go into the classroom for the season. This is the last field trip that's coming for the season. This is the first of the last open weekends, you know. This is the first of the last special events. That's hard, because for whatever reason, the choice that's being made is that we have to worry about making sure we buy a lot of things, but we don't keep the people to do the work. And even more frustrating is that the upper echelons seemingly are making no sacrifice, while the people at the bottom are just kind of let go. And that's hard. It's hard to deal with, because it's the first time in my life I've really truly felt like I belonged at a job, or like that I was decent at what I do, that it was not only fulfilling, but that I was good at it, you know. And already I'm talking about it in the past tense, and it's difficult, right? That emotional response, that desire to be negative, to fight back, to get rough, is really strong in me, because I have a really hard time keeping my mouth shut, laying down, rolling over. And I don't plan on doing that now either. There's just a lot of steps that have to happen before, like, I probably shouldn't even really be saying this online, but I don't know that any of this is for sure, but the indication is that, allegedly, as they say, the cover your ass allegedly. I don't know how to deal with that. I've never had something where I'm having so much fun and enjoying it and feeling fulfilled and satisfied, while also knowing there's a good chance it's going to disappear. That's a strange emotion. And I think it's important to express those things, to like really talk through and share them, to understand a little bit better how I feel by just like externalizing it. So I do this with my friends, I do this with my family, but I also want to do it with you, because I don't think I'm alone, right? I don't think I'm the only person that's in a situation where like things are really starting to be weird. They're starting to feel like they're falling aparty, and we're still just kind of told, go along, you'll be fine, everything's fine, nothing's as crazy as it seems like it is. But this feels different. A lot of things feel different. And sometimes that just registers as bittersweet, where it's enjoyable and I'm having fun, but I kind of feel like a musician on the Titanic. You know, it's just that I'm probably listening to, you know, Converge or Black Midi or something like that instead of Beethoven or whatever they were playing. I don't know. The last time I watched Titanic, it was in the movie theater. So, I don't know. That's about it on that. I guess I just wanted to share kind of where my brain is with that stuff. But, yeah, I'll be back in a little bit and talk about something significantly more positive, I think.
That's correct.
All right, welcome back. So, wrap up this episode, I just want to talk about my very strange bid for city council. So, where I live, the city council had a vacancy, and basically the way they filled the vacancy is by saying anybody that lives in the ward where the vacancy was made, you can fill out an application. They do it by tribunal, right? So the city council asks questions and then votes to choose somebody. Because it's a temporary position, it only goes until next November, and then there will be an election again. So, from my understanding, like 13 people applied for the job. 6 people were chosen for an interview. I was one of those 6 people by some strange happenstance. Not entirely sure how that happened, but I appreciate that they at least, allowed me to be there. I showed up as myself. My typical garb on an average day is overalls with a t-shirt, and that is what I wore. Everybody else showed up in their 2 to 3 piece suit, which is, I guess, a way you can be, but I felt it was much more important to present myself as myself than present myself as what they wanted, right? And I know that that's like the uphill battle that I'm not going to win, right? That I'm being, chosen more as a popularity contest than as legitimately what my beliefs and ideas are. There's a few things that I guess I'd really like to point out about the choices that the other people made, because I think that me learning how to more effectively communicate in those kind of circles kind of hinges a little bit on that, but I don't think I have any desire to make those kind of compromises. My outfit is the first start, right? Like, if you don't think I can do a job because of the way I look, then you're ignorant, because I've seen some really trashy people do really, really good work and some really fancy people do real shit work. So that is, the way you dress is literally never an indicator of your skill level. I didn't pander, right? Like, I spoke honestly because it's important to speak honestly. When they ask me what I felt the most important, issue facing Greeley is right now, I talked about our budget crisis because it is the most important issue. Other people talked about how important it is to support the police. Sure, that's great. When we look at the budget that's being presented right now, there's no lack of support for the police. That's not an issue. The issue is that the entire budget is tanking, and lots of people are probably going to, at the very least, lose a lot of hours, if not their jobs entirely. That's a real crisis, right? There were people that talked about how wages are too low. Well, the city has no control over that. The city can't go around telling businesses you need to raise wages. But the plan presented was a trickle-down economics plan, because 60 years of economics hasn't proven that doesn't work at all, right? Because all of us are so trickle-down rich from the billionaires. But his plan was to increase the wages of city employees so that it would trickle down to the rest of the community while we're in the midst of a budget crisis. And I think that leads to something that I feel like maybe I'm the only person that did any, is preparation. Like, understanding what's actually happening. Not just coming in with your rote answers of, like, the one guy was I love the cops, I'll do whatever for the cops. That's fine. Like, I don't agree with that particular sentiment, right? That we shouldn't just blindly say, yes, whatever you want, sir. But again, I don't see any people standing up saying we need to, not have the police in our city. Nobody's challenging that, right? There's another guy that just seemed really disorganized, and I can appreciate that. I have ADHD, so I can be that way. The one guy came up with a 3-point plan. Only one of the points did he ever delineate, and that point was the ridiculous trickle-down thing. One lady was there, and she seemed a little out of her depth, but she had honest and good answers that really reflected the heart of our city, that really expressed things that mean things to people. And then the guy that was sitting right next to me is a public defender. And he talked a lot about homelessness and crime and ways that we can mitigate those things. Also, he was prepared. Yeah, his focus maybe is a little more niche than mine, but he has an understanding of what's actually happening in the city. And that's the third thing that I really felt was weird, that the choices that these other people made, is with the exception of the public defender that was sitting next to me, I don't really feel like any of them had a really great concept of what my city is really like. I've lived here for almost all of my 47 years, and I've seen it have a lot of good things happen and a lot of bad things happen. But most importantly, I've lived in the same part of the city for most of my life. And I've watched it go from like a pretty much abandoned downtown because of the 80s urbanization idea where we tear down all the old buildings and just put up brick squares that nobody likes. And then pulling out a lot of businesses and just sticking in office buildings and thinking that somehow that's going to make a downtown thrive. And then I saw the transition in like the 90s and 2000s where a lot of those offices went away and bars and restaurants and movie theaters and gaming stores and record stores and bookstores started to move into that area, and it completely changed the city, right? And those kind of positive directions, those movements forward are great until right now when we're taking like 10 steps back, getting ourselves in over our heads on a project that costs as much as Trump's stupid ballroom, right? Like our municipality is not equipped for that, right? So why aren't they talking about this stuff? Why aren't they talking about the budget? Why aren't they talking about the ups and downs of the city? Why aren't they talking about the actual people that live there? When they asked us to describe our neighborhood, I described it as accurately as I could. There's a lot of rich people. There's a lot of poor people. And there's probably like a dozen languages being spoken because we have people from South America. We have people from Central America. We have people directly from Mexico. We have people from Southern United States. We have people from West Africa. We have people from the Middle East. We have people from here, right? And the people from here aren't even really people from here because everybody that's come to my city ever came from somewhere else, including the guy that founded the city who came here from New York. Right? Why aren't they talking about this? Why don't they have any conceptualization or understanding of what this city is really like? I wasn't chosen, obviously. I did this thing called being honest. You know, I'm a longtime resident. I have very strong opinions and I'm willing to stand on business. Like I'm not going to fuck around with them, right? I'm not going to be horrible about it. We will have real conversations, but that doesn't mean that you can force me to agree with you. They asked everybody, how long have you lived in the city? And by far, I was the longest. But the guy next to me with his one delineated point of a 3-point plan, he's been here the least amount of time. And it felt like he had the least understanding of what's going on around him. And I think that's why he was the best choice for them. Because that means that he can just be driven in a direction. He's not going to have a strong opinion. He's not going to have a forceful voice. He's going to defer to people that have been here longer, that have experienced more, that have a better understanding of the city, that understand that the budget is in rough shape and that pay raises are probably not in the books. It's impossible for me to ignore this. When I talk to my friends about it, like when I talk to David, Brandon, you know, some of the people I've talked about before, even people I've had on, you know, I say this interview felt like my shot across the bow, me letting them know that I'm on the way. Like, I'm going to do my best to be in the position that they didn't want to choose for me. Maybe I'll just have some other people choose and help. I'll probably run. Like, I'm really thinking about it a lot, right? Because I want to represent my city. Somewhere inside of me, I still believe in representative democracy. I believe that the voice of a city council person isn't my voice. I said it several times. My goal is to not win an argument. My goal is to come to the best solution, right? If my idea doesn't work and yours does, let's do that. But don't sell me a bill of goods. What does that look like? What does it look like to do that for me? Because it's definitely not taking money from big groups. It's not about finding ways to send out mailers or do any kind of radio or TV ads. It's about engaging my neighborhood. And it's not a small ward. Like, it's a pretty big area. What does it look like to make my own posters, to make my own signage, to make my own flyers, to do the work myself, to not rely on other people's funding? How do I start that? How do I get on the ballot? What do I do? What does all of that look like? Oh man, there's my phone. It's the FBI, I bet. The reality of the situation is that I'm going to do this. I'm going to do my best to get this done. And you guys will probably be along for the ride with me. You'll probably get to experience that and, yeah, have those kind of conversations. And we'll figure it out as we go. But, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it's an interesting peek into maybe a different way of approaching running for local office. Because I am not a Republican, and I'm certainly not a Democrat, and I am not really interested in any of their help. I think it's time for something different. So, yeah, that's about it. I'll be back to wrap it up.
That's correct.
All right, welcome back. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it for the show. Just hopefully it was enjoyable. Like, it was a good conversation. My mom is going to be in town this week, so hopefully we will get to... I mean, I'm going to go visit her. I don't know if I'm going to sit down and fully do the interview or if that's something that I plan out for the future, but I really do want to get started on that because my mom and I have kind of a crazy story because I was adopted when I was 3 days old and didn't get to meet her till I was, in my late 30s. So that's been super cool. Also, my friend Rob will be here hopefully this weekend to do that kind of stuff, and we'll get that done. I am definitely trying to line up more interviews to do that sort of thing. I just finished a book that I'm going to write to the author and see if he'd be willing to come on. We'll see how that goes, because I think he's a little more famous than Mark Brockway. And yeah, just thanks. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for listening. This has been more of like a rambly one than like really anything else, but yeah, I appreciate it. If you appreciated it, feel free to subscribe. Like I said, if you made it this far, you might as well. If you didn't, yeah, whatever. It's all good. That's what my dad always does. Peace. Peace be with you. My dad's Catholic. And he doesn't like to shake hands, so when they do the peace be with you and upon your spirit, my dad will just go, peace, bro. Fucking cracks me up. My dad is such an old hippie sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. Have a good one. Just a reminder that I'm not a very interesting guy. I'm just interested in interesting things. Oof, that was rough. Interesting things. Let's try it one more time. I'm not a very interesting guy. I'm just interested in interesting things. And honestly, if I hated you, you would know.
That's correct.